Well, are we ready?
Yes.
All right, let's call our meeting to order. We're going to need an approval for the minutes for the February 15th. Oh, yeah, we gotta, sorry. I knew better.
Make a motion, we approve the agenda.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so we got that piece done. Now we need to approve the minutes. Can we have a motion to approve the minutes from February 15th meeting, provided everybody had a chance to read them?
I make a motion to approve the minutes from February 15th.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Got that done. All right, so we have old business. We're going to review our sign code.
Yeah,
Go for it.
I just want to bring that back, we want to bring that back to the board one last time. If there was anything else, I think the last thing we left off with that you all could go through, if there's anything else that jumped out. April 9th, at City Commission meeting of April 9th, we are going to workshop for signs to finally get the intent to adopt started, but the ordinance process started, which starts with an intent to adopt the ordinance with the changes that the commission approves, then it's got to go 30 days through that period, and then whatever corresponding commission meeting is after the 30 days, it's scheduled, and there's a final adoption of the ordinance for those changes, and then 5 days after that, there's publication saying that the commission adopted this amended ordinance, and then it's law. So it's been about 2 or 3 months that we kind of, I wouldn't say put it off, but I really kind of was struggling to get it back on after our initial workshop in January. When was that?
I think so.
And just, we had a commissioner, if you remember, Mayor Pro Tem George said that, I'm gonna take this and go through it and get back with you guys, and crickets haven't heard anything back from him. So I hit him up, and he said he actually didn't really have anything else that he saw that he really needed to change, other than the changes that we all agreed on that were, some were pretty obvious. The biggest thing was the chart that Terita was able to put together to kind of consolidate some of the signs that were allowed and how we would look at zoning and what signs are allowed within that zoning. That we think is very helpful. I think you've all been through that. Political signs was another discussion. I think we nailed that down. As you can see, there's some political signs around town already coming up.
And like I was saying, basically, the only thing that's changed since the last time you guys viewed it, except a few typos and that sort of stuff, was adding the murals to it. So that's the part really that you guys needed to look at and see if you were okay with.
Yeah, and that was the third thing I was going to say. So if there was anything in regards to that.
Now, I can't remember, but didn't we agree that we would allow the planning division to review and approve? Or did we say that we wanted to?
The mural?
Yeah, because I thought we had left it at your discretion, and then if it was appealed, then it would come to us. Or if they were going to appeal it, then it came to us.
Right.
Because right now it states that we approve it. And I don't know if we want to delay that process, or at least from my opinion.
No, I think that's what we discussed tonight. I think that's what we agreed on. We want it, if it's a straightforward mural that doesn't offend, one of the biggest things that we wanted to put in there was, I think we put in for, is there any offensive material, is that,
Yeah, number 11 states that,
yeah,
where it comes back to us.
decision to revise and resubmit the application.
I don't think we put it in there because how do you define, I think we discussed how do you define that? So
Well-
it's just, we'll deal with it in the review if needed be.
Yeah, I think we did say we need to put something that was not offensive, right, that did not show, I don't know if that was.
What we put in the definitions.
I think it was any representation of illegal activity, graphic or immoral content.
Did I get that in there or no?
I don't know, I didn't see it in there.
Okay.
And they were gonna bring us a picture, right?
Huh?
They were gonna bring a prototype? Didn't we talk about that
I
too?
think we were gonna require them to have a picture done already so that we could actually review it.
That's what we were gonna review?
Yeah. But we do need to have something that states of no offensive material or something, like you said.
And define it.
Yeah.
I think if we at least put those short descriptions of no graphic content, no illegal activity or
Okay.
depiction of illegal activity. I mean, that's my
I don't
opinion.
think I can edit it on this machine, so.
Okay. Well, let's take some notes that, and again, this is why we did this again for today, because April 9th will have that ready for them.
So we want it just to be reviewed and either approved or denied in our office?
Yes.
I think that was what we had discussed before. Let me find the exact verbiage. On what document?
Yeah, because they were gonna, we had talked about them bringing that
Yeah.
picture or
Drawing.
a prototype,
Right, it requires.
and then that would be what you would be able to use a,
Rendering of what.
Yeah.
What the finished product would be.
Proposed, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's important because I know in other communities require that because at application, they can try to explain what they want and then you go out there and it's something totally different. But we definitely want to see a rendering of what it is to ensure that, and, you know, even if it becomes like a case where it turns out to be something that's not allowed or offensive, then we know from at time of permit, or they submit, and we see what they're gonna do and needs to stick with that.
So number 9, I will change to the Community Development Department will review, approve, or deny all mural permit applications. I'll take that next sentence out. If it is denied, we'll inform them the reasons why, provide them, so that can stay the same, I believe. 11, upon receiving a denied, the applicant has 15 business days from the date of the denial. So I'll change number 11 to revise and resubmit before the community development. And then the appeal will be made to P&Z.
Yeah.
Okay,
But don't forget up there at the first part, when they bring it to you, that they bring you the
right,
Rendering.
number 9.
rendering, yes.
I'll have to do a permit, and we'll put all of that in the permit as well.
The rendering.
But I'll add that there as well. And then where do I put the not offensive stuff in?
We can put that into the permit or just as a number 15.
Okay,
No mural shall have or depict
Either
offensive.
that or put it up there in number 9 where upon application, applicant will provide a preliminary rendering of,
And then it's,
and then that gives you, then you can either deny or accept or give the permit right then and there rather than having to, it'll all be,
right there. So number 9.
Wouldn't that
and
work?
Just like an added sentence that,
okay. And what was the verbiage you said?
So the mural cannot depict any illegal activities, which would constitute drugs or what else, right? And then,
Any illegal activities,
no graphic content, which to me would depict nudity and
Right.
violence.
Yeah,
but do we want to spell out that or just say illegal?
I think
I
in
would just say
parentheses.
includes,
No graphic
includes
content?
nudity and violence.
nudity, violence, including but not limited to.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, 'cause then,
There you go.
I don't know, pulling hair could be violence, but
Yeah,
I don't know if one's gonna have a mural of someone pulling their hair.
Okay. And under illegal activities, you said drugs,
Violence,
Drugs,
violent acts.
you know,
violent acts or illegal acts or,
okay. Anything else? Okay. I'll work on it and then I'll probably shoot it out to you guys and just give me a thumbs up or any corrections, how about?
sounds good. I appreciate it.
No
Yeah,
problem.
I,
This is why we brought this back before we go before them.
yeah, I know it's since the last time we went, but I had personal experience with this in another community, I think I talked to you about it, where there was a mural of a guy shooting up heroin, Jesus with his neck slit, I mean, it was like, and there was a huge outrage over it, but it was like too late, because it was done, and there was virtually no policy on that, they tried to signify that as graffiti, and it was just a mess. So I'm really glad we're kind of covering that. And then April 9th, again, Mr. Chair, I know, you'll probably, if you'd like, you're gonna attend, but another one of you can attend as well, if you guys wanna choose who that is. And if you, more than two of you, and it's a quorum thing, we can publish that the planning and zoning board will be attending this workshop on April 9th. So I don't want to limit it to just two of you. If there's more than you that want to attend, let us know so that we can make sure was it 72 hours? So that we have to notify, just like our notice
We
of
would need to
quorum.
know Thursday morning, the Thursday morning prior to the commission meeting,
Well,
so we have time.
does anybody, would anybody want to attend that meeting,
It depends on the date.
the 9th?
April 9th, Tuesday, April 9th at 6 PM, it would be 5 PM would be the, and we're sharing our workshop, by the way, so we're only gonna be on for a half an hour.
5 to 5:30 or?
So 5 to 5:30, and then there's another workshop from 5:30 to 6, then the meeting starts at 6. So,
Anyone interested? Checking your schedule?
Yeah, I'm checking mine. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
so that Thursday before is actually next week. Next Thursday, the 4th of April.
Yeah,
We need to know if there's gonna be a quorum, because that's the
Well-
publishing deadline.
we might be able to determine today how many,
Yeah, that'd be,
and then if it's going to be closed, then we could just note it as such,
Yeah, I don't see any
I can go.
roadblocks.
and it'll just go,
Yeah, I can go.
I'll probably attend.
okay. So we'll,
So we'll publish.
yeah, publish it, yeah.
okay. And just to, and if,
And if we have a quorum, then we're good, and if we don't, then we're fine.
And we're covered.
then we're covered, right, yeah. Anything else on sign code that,
On the political signs, did we say 30 or 45 days? I know I've already lost my, after?
I think we went with 45 days, right? That was in line
I'm
with
looking.
Farmington.
We have it noted as 30, but I thought it was 45.
I think we changed it
We
to,
changed it, from the commission meeting. I know that we changed it after that meeting. So whatever it was there is what they recommended.
So what we got on, right now is, prior, 60 days prior to the specific election and 30 days after.
I think we'll wait for that. I'm not a betting man, I feel
Yeah.
like it was 45. Is that?
Well, I think we had 45, but they talked about it, and they said 30, so I changed it to what they said. But if you guys want to change it, we can change it to
Well-
what they said.
On there?
It's right there, 30 days after.
No later
Well,
than
I thought
30
we'd
days.
changed it to kind of fall in line with the county and Farmington and Bloomfield.
We did.
So we'll put a question mark on that and see if the commission want, without looking at that, what was your guys' thoughts? The 45 days of, because I seem to remember that too, we wanted to kind of be in line with Farmington.
Yep. I think that's what we'd talked about, to kind of fall in line with
45.
everybody else.
I'll have to go look back at what they had again.
Okay.
But I know that that was a discussion, and I changed it to what the commissioner said that night.
Yeah,
So,
I remember that too. So here again, for the workshop, we'll put that down, that, give us the final, 30 or 45. I know Mayor Padilla said, my signs are down the next day, but, one of them said, no, they're not, I have one of your signs that I took down several months after, so. But I tend to agree, just to be consistent with some of the other communities, but that'll be another thing that we'll make sure, everything that we change is just gonna hit on at the workshop.
and I most likely will leave it like it is, and then if we need to change it, they could do it in the, and the move, how they move to do it, because our hope is to take it that same night and get the intent to adopt
Yeah.
passed that same night. So I'll leave it like they said, discussion with them, and they could make a move to accept it with the change made of 45 if they want to change it.
Yeah, so that was something we discussed too, is to start the intent to adopt that same night after the workshop. I would say that there's a 90% chance that we probably won't, because the workshop will have changes. and
I'm hopeful we can.
I know the mayor and commission tend to want to make sure these changes are done, and then the next meeting, they'll want to see in their packet what they asked to be changed, and then be prepared to vote on it. Because they get their packet for the meeting that Friday before that Tuesday meeting. So they have a whole weekend to read it, and so, but that was our intention, is to have our workshop, and then when the official meeting starts, on the agenda, we'll have the intent to adopt, where, like Rita said, if there's some changes, they can motion to change those changes and start that process. But more likely, we'll start the process at the next meeting, which should be the 23rd of April. Then we'll go to May 23rd, and the new law will be, the new sign law will be first part of June. Either way, we'll get it done.
All right.
That's, you guys wonder what we do all day, we fret over this stuff. Try to guess what they're gonna do or not do, so.
Does anybody else have any comments or questions on the sign code? Good job, Rita.
Yes.
Do we need to vote on it? Do we need to vote on it? We don't need to vote on it, do we? Do we need to accept it with the changes, or?
Well, so that was old business, you don't, but on the new business, you probably want to vote.
Okay.
If you guys just send a recommendation to the commission on the new business that we discussed now,
Gotcha.
well, especially on the chapter 26 stuff.
All right. So we're ready to move to the next piece of our business, which is a variance. All right. I'm gonna read the script that I got here in front of me. If you wish to testify or provide comment on the matter of this issue, you must register with the clerk and the land use registration form and be sworn in with staff, the applicant, identified parties, witnesses, and interested persons. So we're going to be having a hearing on a variance number 2401. The applicant is requesting a 15-foot rear setback instead of 30-foot setback for a new build. So, Mr. Sandoval, are you here?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Abernathy, are you here?
Yes.
Is there anyone else that would like to be heard in this matter? Would you all please stand? We'll swear everyone in. Raise your right hand. Do you agree to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. All right. You may be seated. Go ahead, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, Planning and Zoning Commission, we are here today to rule on a variance for 15 feet rear setback for Mr. Sandoval on a new build. We have a PowerPoint here to show you what specifically asking for. This property is located on the corner of Pollard and Cathy. You can see here, this is the lot. This is Pollard. This is Cathy Circle. The lot is not large enough to fit the home that they're proposing to build, which is roughly just over 1,600 square feet, almost 17,
That's without the garage.
without the garage.
With the garage, the home itself is 1686, and then you add the garage, it's 2173. The reason why we're shooting for that square footage, just so that it could be like the rest of the houses in the neighborhood. Not, it's gonna be hard to sell a house that's like, you're gonna buy a small house in the neighborhood.
Yeah, and the rest of that block, you have, these houses in the cul-de-sac have pretty large lots that, that meet that 30-foot rear setback. That's the code, is the 30-foot rear setback, which is pretty extensive. But this lot and the lot across the street are kind of the last two remaining lots in that subdivision, and they're pretty squeezed with it. Go to the next slide. So here's the dimensions of the house, 1,690 square feet, which here again, I think, the property owner is willing to have a 15-foot rear backyard instead of 30 feet to allow for a bigger house, which is a higher valuation, if you will, of that property, lot, and community. Next slide. So as it says there, it states what I've already kind of gone over is what the applicant is requesting, the 15-foot rear setback. So there'll be 15 feet remaining for the rear backyard, and well within what I think you, Mr. Rakowitz, in your fire experience allows for a collapse zone that's often used, and why you have at least 10 feet between structures sometimes.
Yeah.
So this is well within any of those issues that might arise as a collapse zone where he has 15 feet of rear backyard, and then the adjacent neighbor has, there's at least another 10 feet, so there's a good 25 feet between the two structures. And here it shows what the setback would be. This is the rear that our code requires 30, and with the building footprint placement, with the 15-foot setback is how it would look. This is Pollard. This is the 15-foot side setback, and a 25-foot front setback is required also, and that is going to remain. And here's your driveway, and the house is going to face Cathy Road, or Cathy Circle. So the community development staff does recommend approval of this variance, 2401. request from Mr. Michael Sandoval to reduce the rear setback from 30 feet to 15 feet for a new build at the corner of Cathy Circle and Palmer. And we'll stand for any questions.
Do I need to exclude myself from this?
So I was asked about that from another commissioner, and actually a city commissioner who lives on that block. So the best way to answer that is if you received a letter, because we send out letters to all property owners within 100 feet of this property. From the city commissioner did not, he was outside of that 100 feet. And/or if you're personally involved, if you know the applicant personally, or you're personally involved in this project at all, then yes, you can recuse yourself.
Okay, mine is just because of Pioneer Heights.
Just because you're a builder,
Yeah.
developer,
Yeah.
entrepreneur?
Yeah, whatever you say.
No, and Commissioner Martinez actually voiced the same concern. I think both of you guys are fine.
Okay.
You know, I know you live in close proximity, you're in that business, and why you're also been helpful and asked to be on this board, so I think you're fine
Okay.
with it, so.
With that, I do have a comment. In today's world, the smaller lots are very, and we've had terrible troubles coming up with plans for two-sided street,
Corner lots.
the corner lots. And what we've had in the past, planning and zoning, not planning and zoning, but the community development has not even approved them. They didn't pick up that they were outside of those boundaries. So in Pioneer Heights, we have some that meet the requirements and some that don't. And so this doesn't have anything to do with their case, but I think that could be a project that we could really review
Yeah.
to see if they're
It's on my
excessive. Okay, great.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, Commissioner McWilliams, I have a comment on that as well. Let's get through this hearing process and close this out, because we
Okay.
do need to talk about that.
Okay.
And so,
Okay. Good. So on this, hello, my name is Michael Sandoval, and I was looking at these two lots, and I've lived down the road on 4th Street with my marriage. That's no longer a marriage, but anyhow, so I know the neighborhood. I've seen those lots sitting for a good while. So then I started, thinking, well, I'm a licensed contractor, I'm gonna just build a house, started looking at the size of the lot and whatnot. So at first, we figured 15-foot variance from our building to the property line. So what I did is I winded up squeezing that garage into the actual house instead of having it out. And then that way I could bring the back in towards the road and still have my 25-foot. So right now, I'm looking at minimum 15 foot in the back, but more than likely, I'll wind up with 20 foot in the back. Of the way, the new design of, because the layout that we have now from the architect, it was kind of, we're throwing numbers, we're moving the house around and moving rooms in and out and whatnot, trying to make this work. So we didn't spend too much time on the actual blueprint because we didn't know how this was all going to transpose right now. So we came up with something that is workable. So we brought that garage in and moved the laundry room and the utility room around and squeezed the master bedroom. Instead of being wide like this, we made it longer and to accept the garage coming into it. So right now we're, like I was saying, minimum 15 foot, more than likely, because I mean everybody wants a backyard, you know what I mean? So right now, I mean, giving them a 15-foot backyard, it's like, well, but then on the side they're going to have quite a bit. They're going to have probably around 30 foot, 35 foot on the side before they hit the street. So they're going to have a good side yard and a front yard, but the way we work the floor plan, it looks like now they'll have a 20-foot minimum, maximum 20 foot, minimum 15, but we're shooting to stay closer to giving them a 20-foot backyard on, on the structure. And if everything works out on this project here, I would like to, since we're discussing it now, that property that is across the road from that is the same layout. So if this works out good on this property, I'd like to jump across the road and build that same blueprint, but just change the elevations a little bit. Just, the inside will be the same, just make the outside just a little bit different, but it's gonna have the same layout. So, if everything works good on this property, then across the street, I'll fill in that lot, and then that neighborhood will be complete.
Well, I think when you do the across the street, we'll have to go through this process again, right?
Yes, sir.
So,
Yeah.
We'll be better at it next time.
we'll know how it works, right? And if I understand correctly, the variance is gonna allow you 15 foot from the property line?
From the
So
back
if you-
property.
So if you're at 20 foot, you're within that, you meet that requirement?
Yeah.
So you just can't be over, you can't be closer than 15 feet?
Yeah,
So-
that's the minimum, but I'll be more than 15 foot from the edge of the house to the property line. Minimum, I'll be 15. More than likely, if everything works out and we start laying everything out and getting down to the brass tack, I'm seeing probably around 20 foot.
Yeah, as long as it's not 12.
Right.
Yeah, no, I won't go below 12.
Yeah,
Or 15, 15, I think 12.
It's the size of a pickleball court. It's a winter one.
Thank you.
yep, thank you. Does anyone have any questions? No? All right. Can we have no one has any questions or comments? So we're ready to move on it, right? So if we can have a motion to vote on it.
Make a motion to vote
Yeah,
on the variance 24-1 to reduce the setback from 30 feet to 15 feet.
Second.
everybody that's in favor of the variance?
Aye.
Aye. You want a roll call?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Roll call vote, please. Mr. Thomas?
Yay.
Mr. Martinez?
Yay.
Ms. Evers?
Yay.
Yay?
Yay.
Yay.
Unanimous. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. That part is done. Thank you, y'all. We got that done. You guys can,
So
We did, requested a variance when we did Pioneer Heights from the beginning to have 20-foot setbacks. So that's what we have in Pioneer Heights. And there's
I'm gonna
been
start advertising that thing
issues
as
with
soon as
that.
I break ground.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put out the floor plan and that elevation.
well,
As soon as I get.
you gotta give up something if it's a small lot, right?
That's it.
I mean, yard is yard or house.
Yeah, I mean, if the subdivision is built prior to identifying those setbacks, you're gonna have that issue every time.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
The roads are what the roads are.
That's it. That's it.
I think we could have a little discussion, Mr. Chair, on what Commissioner McLean brought up. When this came up, just like some of these others, we took a step back and said, we probably should look at this again as far as our mission to be more business friendly. So as, we're gonna get into, we could probably let this fall right into the next business item, which is
Land use?
chapter 26. So real quickly, we already discussed removing vet clinics. And so we went before the city commission last meeting, right? I think started the intent to adopt
March 12th.
March 12th, which was the intent to adopt amending chapter 26 to allow for vet clinics within the R2 zone, the O1, office institutional C1 and C2 zone. Whereas if you recall that it was not allowed. vet clinics and animal hospitals weren't allowed in any zone except for the ag zone. And we all know the ag zone is non-conforming really almost in every way. So technically, like on Pioneer, Maddox, and McCoy, where they're all zone ag, but it's a residential lots, you could put a vet clinic there under a conditional use. And so the M1 zone, the manufacturing zone, allows for medical offices that I would consider, if an applicant came in within that zone, a animal clinic or vet clinic, because that's, to me, that's still falls in the medical world. But this really cleans it up and allows for them. And here again, we don't have any vet clinics, and so this probably could be why. You know, there's a lot of businesses, developers, even, you know, you have chain and franchise vet hospitals and clinics that scrutinize any particular city's code before they even make a call. So we don't really know what opportunities we've lost in a broad spectrum of things, but especially in this regard. So that process is already starting. And so if it's March 12th and April 9th, we were told, I was thinking you need to go the full 30 days, but April 9th, I guess because that's really close, is when the final adoption will be to allow for that vet clinics and animal hospitals to be in those zones under a conditional use. So if we get an applicant to come in and say, I want to build a vet clinic, which we have a prospective opportunity on the Larrabee property outside of town that's been for sale forever. They used to kind of sell tractors and stuff once in a while there. It'll come before you as a conditional use. And then
Which end of town is it?
south end of town, right across from urgent care. It's been,
Yeah.
the guy's got some big plans for lots of stuff. Vet clinic's one of them. So we'll be at least in better shape that way. The third thing is, and this is also gonna be coupled with our workshop. So we're gonna cover signs, and then we're gonna cover chapter 26 and removing animals in that code. Because quite honestly, we have chapter 5 in our city code, which is our animal control ordinance. And it's just confusing and kind of convoluted to have our chapter 26, which is land use, to include animals. And we had sections in there about animals that really all things animals needs to be within the animal control world and their ordinance. And so basically that's what we're doing with chapter 26 also, and that is also started, it hasn't not.
Yeah,
No.
we're
So that'll be
fixing it.
starting the night also. So, and again, part of the workshop, this will be, yeah, that's right, this will be the first, we'll be bringing this up to the city commission, that we're doing this. And at the same time, we met with Tina Roper, who's the animal control director, so that if there's any gaps, which there were, that she could fill within chapter 5 of the animal control ordinance on what those might be. And so, we're just basically removing anything animal from the chapter 26 land use, when it just had animal unit and had a few other things in the particular zones that didn't allow for certain, like Pot Valley pigs, I think, or something, and whereas the animal control ordinance did. So if you moved into town and you called, animal control, depending on what animal you would like to have, you basically were allowed to have it. But if you called the planning or the community development office, then that same animal may not be allowed. It would contradict it. So that's gonna be removed. In chapter 5, what was added was just some language that needed to be brushed up. There's, for one, it was residential zone. Certain animals were allowed in a residential zone. And we changed that to residential use because we have commercial zone that allows for residential use. Like the buildings along Main Street, all the top of those buildings are residential lofts generally. And if someone's renting that out as an apartment, then they should be allowed to have their dog as well, even though the zoning is C1. So just minor tweaks like that is what we're gonna add into animal control and just take care of that. So with that said, chapter 26 also, because of this applicant, made us look at, do we initiate a whole nother zone, like high-density residential, whereas we'll be kind of circling back to the ag zone and that we initially discussed when I first came in, almost 8 months ago, about making the ag zone conform to 3 acres and above in line with what the county assessor recognizes as an agricultural zone that has to go through their application process of actually producing some kind of agricultural product or producing in some way, and a minimum of 3 acres, you guys recall that? Then you're assessed as ag. And then the rest of these properties, like that we discussed, will be zoned residential, appropriate to what is actually there. And one of the new zone recommendations that Jarita actually brought up is to create a city ag 8R zone, agriculture residential zone, from 0 to
1 to 3 acres.
1 to 3 acres, that we're still kind of feeling out, but how
I've
would
got
that?
it in here.
Yeah, if you want to look at it, I think it's clean it up.
I like that.
So,
Yeah.
I changed the changes that he just said. I left farm in there for the ag zone, farm for the growing of crops and raising animals. We took everything else out. And then it just, we take things out. We did add kennel/animal boarding business, if that is under conditional uses. So it's the same thing, we just took animals out in all the different zones till we get down to the new zone. That was, it's already on intent to adopt, but I had to identify it in here.
Like chickens, you guys went through the whole chickens, so that's not going to be in our land use zone anymore. That's completely going to be in
Animals.
I
animals.
like that 1 to 3.
Yeah.
I do too.
Now, we'll still be assessed residential because the county assessor doesn't recognize anything.
Yeah, but it still gives you the opportunity to have certain animals, and it doesn't,
Correct.
if people don't have the,
It does, and that's one of the discussions was, because the state livestock board really dictates on large animals, which is 1 large animal per acre, or 2 large animals per acre, and they need to have, if it's 1 acre with 1 large animal, it needs to be at least a half acre of grazing land. And so that 1 to 3 would fit that. If you had, an acre and you wanted a horse, and you have a good half acre that horse could be well taken care of, you can allow for that. And we really, I've been given kind of some feedback to promote more ag in our community, because we are really a city, an island city surrounded by a sea of agriculture. It's ag all around us. And the community I worked in before was the same way. Very, same size, same thing, there's ag all around.
well, I've heard, excuse me,
Go ahead.
well, I've heard some individuals speak of some interest in, like, some of the vacant lots and stuff like that putting in like community gardens and stuff like that.
Yeah. And
So I
Well,
think this would, maybe promote that a little more as well, like you said, that
well, there's a lot of interest on the equine culture, the horse folks around here that would love to be able to do more with the horses here. We have a feed store here. As we get into this Main Street designation and we really kind of create these themes for our community, if that's something that really comes out from a lot of people to add horses and more agricultural type themes, that we need to be able to be flexible with that. So, and we got a lot of people that have a lot of different types of animals. Right across the street on North Main, behind the subway, you see it as a pasture of horses there, right? So,
That land east by the motorcycle, that recreational area that was given from the BLM, that
Yeah.
might be something that could be developed for horses.
yeah, there's, a lot of, Robin Kelly that has that Lenore that they just refurbished, right across from.
The old bank building.
Jessica, she's a huge, horse enthusiast and really involved in that community, would like to have more trails for horses to come in and out of town and around motocross and those areas. So, just like our mountain bike folks and, ATV and, OHV folks, it's a great mix to bring in, those same, enthusiasts that want to do that, so. So that'd be part of the 1 through 3, go ahead on. So here it is, it's the agricultural residential single family district.
Did you guys get a chance to look through it?
I did, and I liked it.
We did, it's pretty much what was in the ag zone, only adjusting setbacks and, the size of 1 to 3 acres. We did adjust setbacks different from ag, so it falls into setbacks between the 3 and over acres or just a regular residential.
Yeah. And then we put it, just scroll down a little bit, the 150 feet lot width, that's something we kind of had a discussion about, because it's, 200 feet
Yeah, I believe ag is 200 feet,
as your lot width?
and I think residential is 100 feet, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So we
75.
kind of went in between that.
But, there again,
So if we're gonna call it agricultural residential, don't you think we should match the residential on the width?
we could.
Why go in the middle?
The
Just to
only,
differentiate between.
yeah, the only concern that would, well, it's just for the building, when the animals would still be able to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think,
What do you mean by what you said?
so the
Lot width,
lot width, we're saying is 100 feet for residential,
Let me go look.
but 150 feet, well, 200 feet for ag. So if we just made it all the same, because it is residential agricultural, so I think if we matched it, both of them 100 feet.
yeah. And we literally went back and forth and.
Yeah, we kept trying
just
to
kind of
figure
plug
that
that
one
in.
out.
Because I think sometimes, then that might solve what what we had to do today with the setback. Because eventually, we're gonna change the setback to 20 foot, maybe, right, the rear setback?
Well, that was the next, getting through this to the next discussion with other new zones we'd like to
Yeah.
incorporate.
So I think if we could, thinking at it on the front end, if we can think about those things and,
Lot width is 65
Feet
feet.
in a residential zone. Which I
Okay,
didn't think was 100, but we could change that to 100 AR.
You might have a hard time with some of the lots.
Well, it just, I think,
well, AR is gonna be 1 to 3 acres, right?
Correct.
So
the 100
the
foot lot.
100-foot lot width is more than likely gonna happen, right? Just in the nature of the beast.
Just the nature of the size. I think the ag had 200 because that's generally your dimensions for an acre is 200 by 200 by 200. So 100 will be fine. You're talking about a lot width of.
Well, some of this
a lot
stuff
is already
may be
existing.
length,
Yeah,
the length of it, and it may not be the 100.
yeah.
the only concern that I would have with it, you've got 100 foot, you're that much closer to your neighbors versus 150.
And I
And,
think that was kind of my mindset. We're in a larger lot already, but I guess.
Well, we're not talking about building, we're just talking about the lot.
Right, so the
Yeah.
setbacks for the building will still remain the same, but the width of the lot, I wouldn't want us to have an ordinance that causes issues with the neighbors.
Right.
And so the 150 to me would be less likely to cause issues with the neighbors because there'd be more distance.
Yeah, and I can see that, but like even what Commissioner Martinez was saying, and I think what we all need to understand is that when we change this, if we change this, whatever's out there from 1 to 3 is grandfather.
Right,
And we may
right.
have some lots out there that are 75 feet by 300 feet.
And they're already in,
And
yeah,
they'll be AR, non-conforming.
yeah.
But, you know, we get someone who has 5 acres and wants to split them up, they'll have to conform to the, if they want it to be AR, we conform to the 150 feet or 100 feet. So, and like I said, I don't care really. I think it should be less than the 200 feet on the ag zone, more than the residential zone, which now we know is 65 feet.
Split it,
And,
put it right in the middle. That's not something we have to decide today. anyway.
no, this is just,
Well, actually, I would like for you to decide that today because we're taking it to commission, hoping to go on to intent to adopt next Tuesday.
Okay.
The 9th, not next Tuesday, the 9th.
well, but this is a great, discussion because, ultimately the commission's gonna decide.
Right,
And, this is where in the workshop that we'll discuss this and see how they feel. And, then we just go from there. I don't know, any of you feel that 100 feet should be or 150 feet? I don't really think there's too much difference between one or the other. And again, we gotta think about when, after this is passed, somebody who has 2 acres wants to split them down to 2 1-acre lots, they'll have to conform with the lot width of 150 each,
No.
which they could do.
Not 1 and 2 acres would be 65, because that'd have to be residential.
What?
If they
Oh,
start.
yes, 1 and 2, never mind,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah,
Sorry.
so 2 acres down to two 1-acre
Yeah.
lots, you would have 150 feet.
Yeah,
And that would conform because you would have 400 feet typically, just depending on how the lot configuration was. So, and then there's, variances like we just did that we absolutely have the 75 by 400 feet issue, that we can work through. So,
you guys tell
So do you
me.
prefer 150 or 100?
100.
like a bid auction, 150.
150, 151.
I think you should conform with the acreage measurements to make it easier to where, you're 200 by 200 for a 1-acre lot. I think it's easier to break up your lots to those measurements than it would be to say, okay, well, we'll allow you 100 foot. Now they've got to go deeper into their lot, and maybe that breaks up their lots differently, so now they can't do 2 lots. I think it needs to conform to the measurements of an acre if you're doing the AR.
And it is 1 to 3 acres. So,
Excuse me, I keep bumping you.
so you're dealing with a minimum of 1 acre, which your dimensions on a typical acre is 200 feet. Now, we end up with another zone that's 0 to 1 acre. That will have its lot width determination as well, so
Now-
it's something to
So you
consider.
propose 200 feet?
I think so. My opinion, yeah.
You're proposing what?
200.
200, still for AR?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So what will change, let's say you guys keep the 200 feet lot width minimum, and what you saw already changed is the setbacks are already at the residential setbacks. So our ag setbacks now are different than that, much.
Well, and I think that's a benefit, right? So you have the larger width of property, you can hug your house to one side and put in a barn and a pasture for a horse or what have you,
Yeah,
and it frees you up a little bit better. But I think maintaining your measurements on an acre is gonna be a benefit for that AR
Yeah.
zoning, my
And-
opinion.
it's not like you're gonna keep them from splitting up their land, they just can't be AR.
Right,
They'll just be residential.
yeah.
How about the rest of you guys?
Anybody else?
I'm not
So we
sure.
got 100 foot, 150 foot, 200 foot. Gotta pick one.
I like the 200.
200, Randy?
200.
I'm kinda toss up still.
Emma?
I'm not sure. So, I mean, we're talking about the AR, we're talking about the agricultural residential new zone
Right.
that doesn't exist in these papers,
Right, it doesn't,
and,
We're adding
So
it.
we're gonna create it, we're creating
okay,
something new.
creating something new, spinning it out, okay. And for a regular residential, what is the requirement?
65.
65 foot.
Right, so, I don't know, gosh. Probably double that. So,
150,
I'm,
30.
150-ish.
I don't know, what are your thoughts, what do you think? I mean, you said 200, right? Thomas, what are your thoughts?
I said 150.
150?
I mean, I would go with the 200,
Okay. And I'm good with that too.
yeah.
I thought at least 150.
Yeah, so when we take this to the commission for workshop, this definitely won't start the intent to adopt before the night, because I think, first of all, we gotta get the commission to want to add this extra zone. And we gotta really make sure that we cover everything with this extra zone. But in the workshop, I'll mention all the dimensions, you guys, but as a board, the consensus was 200 feet.
Yeah.
It sounds like, if you guys.
With this new one, if we go the AR, that would, well, no, because it'd still have to conform with the county, the way they assess taxes and stuff. It's just opening up.
Yeah.
With an
You can't
acre's
get
200 by 2.
agricultural through the county unless you have 3 acres.
What's that?
You cannot get an agricultural tax break unless you have 3 acres.
Yeah.
This zone is just for us to be able to have that in-between zone that allows for some of the larger animals.
Right.
I don't know, I'm thinking, starting to lean towards the 200, like Tom was saying, it'd be a little easier for them to split it up and still fit in there. If they split it up, they still have plenty of room for the 65 foot and their setbacks and everything, and then still have room for barn corrals or whatever. I think I'll lean towards the 200 as well.
Okay, great.
We'll take it
Yeah.
that way then.
Yeah, and again, we may be bringing this back to you guys before we go back to the commission because, I don't know if you guys want to probably vote on it. Huh?
He's
I'm-
raining on my parade.
I'm sorry. I'm just sneaking it.
It's like just hopeful, come on, let's go. Get this one done so we can move to the next changes in there.
We need a vote?
Yeah, I think if
Okay.
you guys would vote, that'd be great.
We need to continue on, we've got some other questions, all right? Want to do it all at one time, or?
Yeah, let's
So-
wait, because there is one question,
Yeah.
under conditional uses. I
Yeah.
wanted you guys to look at that. Are you good with the conditional uses? These are ones that were in the agricultural zone. Are you good with those?
I'm good if we took them out.
Well, now with those,
No
wouldn't some of
conditional
those
uses?
fall under the
Well,
AR?
The-
If they,
the-
Huh?
I says with some of those that we want to take out, wouldn't some of those stay if we go through with the AR new zoning?
So these are ones that were listed as conditional uses in the
Oh.
agricultural zone, so I left them in the AR zone as well.
Oh,
We
okay.
have conditional uses in every one of our zones.
Yes.
So an accessory dwelling,
And we have that in all of our residential zones. It's in, and the reason you've got to kind of look at that is in today's time, when a lot of people are building mother-in-law cottages, those sorts of things. That's why we have to have those.
One thing that comes to mind when you you talk about 40%, does not exceed 40%. What if they wanted to build it all barn, an indoor barn facility? And they couldn't because we were limited at 40.
This is for an accessory dwelling unit. You
Oh, okay,
cannot-
for a living
You cannot
area.
build
Okay,
another
gotcha.
dwelling unit that is as big as the house.
Okay,
So,
Yeah, I
like the
agree with
mother-in-law's
that. I see what you're
but a
saying.
barn, because we even allow. more
Now, a barn
shops.
would be an accessory structure, that's
Okay.
totally different.
okay.
Now, we've gotten some pushback because you're allowed to go 35 feet, and there's a lot of shops that are much bigger than houses around town. I
That's
really
what-
haven't been too excited to change that because, you know, that's a lot of people's desire, and that's in there for a reason.
Yeah,
Some people have those.
Or want to have those.
Yeah, and then you got some people that are jealous because they don't.
So your proposal, we leave them? The conditional unit, conditional use?
Yeah, because if we take them from there, we'll have to look and take them from some other places too. It would be weird to have one zone that we don't have those in. Unless there's something particular you don't think belongs in that zone. I just wanted you guys' opinion.
Well, these don't align with regular residential, conditional uses, correct?
Right. Well, and some of these we look like recreation
I can
facilities.
show you R1.
Those things that we may look at,
Well, the reason I look at it, the reason I was thinking about it is because it looks like we're giving people an opportunity to have a business in
an AR zone.
an AR zone.
That
We
is,
do the
that's something
same.
that jumped out with me too, and we do that in other zones. And what I like, that's why I really like your feedback, because I agree there's some of these things we need to tweak out of this. Because if, like, for recreation, one of the conditional use was recreational, community center, I think was what it said, or swimming pool or something to that effect.
Right.
Recreational facilities.
Tennis club.
nonprofit, Such as community center, swimming pool, tennis club,
Yeah.
provided. Shall be
So
located
if
on
that
various
came in
uses.
as an applicant to do this on a piece of property that was zoned AR, and it was 2 acres, we would rezone that to what would be appropriate for that community center, which would be a C1, C2.
Right.
So in that case, we could take it out. So,
But the issue is if you wanted to have a community center or a swimming pool in the middle of a neighborhood, this is a way to have it if you have at least 1 acre, and you can have it in there as a conditional use. Because if you go putting a C1 in the middle of a residential, that's called spot zoning.
right,
So that's where you have to be careful.
right. And if that's, was to happen.
Well, that's kind of what we're running into along 516 headed north, correct? They're between the Maverick and the new car wash, that area right there.
See, the problem is like that home on Simmons right there,
Yeah,
those homes are zoned commercial. And they were done that way because at some point they're gonna either be knocked down and, and be built back. It's kind of the government forcing that neighborhood to conform to commercial. The problem is, and we talked about before, is, and I've talked to the property owner on the corner of Simmons and 516, you can't sell their house because it's zoned commercial. So they can't get mortgage residential
Financing.
financing because of that zoning.
yeah.
And it is part of what we were gonna, in this wave of rezoning that I plan to do, is to change it to O1, office institutional, that allows for commercial / residential. And talking with some of the mortgage companies, they would, a letter from me, they would allow for a mortgage to finance it, mortgage financing. But yeah, you have that, where commercial meets residential and, and the buffering that goes all along that. And Jarita's correct, if we did have an applicant who wanted a 2 acre piece right in the middle of residential surrounded by R1, and we zoned them C1, You know, it could be spot zoning, you know, I don't know anybody's ever gone to prison for that. I've done spot zoning, but that's something to consider in this new zone, that if you want that to be a conditional use, we can add or take it out. That just jumped out at me because that would be a pretty significant build. It'd be a community drawn facility, community center, those residents in that community would really have a say in whether they want that in the community or not. That's why it'd be a conditional use. But let me stop there and just say that this wasn't an agenda item. I know it just came up because it is something that we've been working on. So that's why I'm really glad we've been able to engage on this. And I will bring it back our next meeting so that you all have an opportunity to really focus and us go back and talk more about it. And the other things that we discussed, and getting back to our variance, is another new zone of, you know, R3 or R4. And so on our sign code, Dorita came up with that kind of spreadsheet that you guys saw, where you can just look at what zoning is and the sign you want and match it to say if it's allowed or not allowed. We came up with that same matrix for our land use. So, and she's already developed the same type of spreadsheet. We have our zoning all across on the top and all the uses on the bottom. And in the former community that I worked in, we created that. It was much more user-friendly, if you will, than like what we have now, where she's flipping through and you're looking at what C1 requires, then you go on to C2, and you see much of the same things are allowed in C1 and C2, or residential 1 and residential 2. And this way, you just have the spreadsheet. It says, okay, I want to do a boarding, you know, kennel, and then it'll be marked on what zones that's allowed in as an X, and what zones it's a conditional use will be marked with a C. And there's some zones that we get into special use, that'll be an S. You know. But this will allow, if we do an R3 zone, and the community that I worked in before, we had all the way up to R4. And so the R3 and the R4 were for high-density residential. And you had zero lot line, like townhomes or condominiums, stuff like that. You had, I think our residential code requires a minimum of a 7,000 square foot lot, right? I think, where an R3 would maybe be a 5,000 square foot minimum lot, where R4 would be up to 3,500, if my memory serves me correctly, as the minimal lot size. So that's a very small lot, but you, in that R3 zone, is specific, generally in town, as an infill, you want that high density type of development at a 3,500 square foot lot. And so your setbacks would reflect all of that. And some of those, like townhomes, condos, where you have either zero lot line or common wall, you have either zero setbacks on one side and just a rear setback to allow for a small yard, stuff like that. Because our R1 zoning, you know, to me is problematic. The 25-foot setback in the front and 30 in the rear, you know, you have 55 feet of unbuildable space.
Exactly, yeah.
And then you have 15 on the side, right? And
It's
almost 15, 10.
not in R1.
Yeah, so I think their side setbacks are 5. Is it 15?
No, in R1 it's 5.
Yeah, unless you're on the corner.
Unless you're
Yes.
on the corner.
And then those corner lots are, they're bare,
30 feet on.
to find plan that fits.
Well,
15 on a corner lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
15, so I live on the corner lot.
Uh-huh.
And in other communities, and what often is that you're considered a double front.
Right,
And so at least
Right.
here, we have 15
Yes.
feet instead of your double front, you're 25 feet on both, which
yes.
would kill me where I live.
Mm-hmm.
And what we even consider in-house here is your front, where your door is your 25-foot setback. And even though you're on a corner lot, the 15 feet is still considered your side. And that's why the corner lot has a 15-foot side setback, which I think is great. 'Cause
That's been changed, it's been
Years
changed,
past.
because it used to be double fronts.
Be double front, yeah.
Mhm.
And I don't know.
The way our code identifies, if I understood right, double fronts is if there's a street on each side of it.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's like a corner
And
lot.
a corner lot is like the corner lot.
Well, and that, you have a street on each side on a corner lot, right? Yeah. Like on this one, you have Pollard and Kathy.
Yeah.
And where I live is Anasazi and Spotted Brook.
yeah.
Yeah, so it, but, so, another thing to consider, this is what we're going through in our office now, is we really would like to create these other zones to create, some more options for people. Not only that they, if they come in, we'll get into it when we get into updates, but when we have investment interest, I really would like to give these options, because when I incorporated this into the other community, the investment community really appreciated it, if you will. They gobbled it up. Because if you can build more buildings on your land, you can make more money. You have more units to build to rent out, and provide, just more space, so.
And the truth of it is, Aztec's a bedroom community.
It really is.
So I went back to
Bedroom
R1
community
and
and a retirement community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seeing that, you should see the call volume as far as the fire department.
Yeah.
so I went back to R1 and the conditional uses are pretty much the same as what I had put in there for AR1. And the reasoning for conditional uses is like what I said a while ago. So you don't spot zones to do that. And they talk about that all the time when I go to NMLC in our meetings.
Yeah, it's really
You
frowned
use-
upon, but.
Yeah, you use conditional uses to help you be able to do some of these things and not create a spot zone, because they harp on it all the time.
Yeah, and spot annexing, like if, we want to annex an area that's not contiguous to our, our city. But the city of Albuquerque did that, I've been in other communities where we did that. It's just, I will encourage it, but like she said, the municipal league and the state really discourages that. It's not good practice. But we have work to do to see, how we nail down these conditional uses, I think. And if we do leave them, they are conditional uses that can be turned down.
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, I just, if you guys think they're okay, if you think there's some that should go, let me know.
Okay. Now, this is not the same document where you were with the veterinarian clinic, though, is it?
We
Okay,
had to submit that, we submitted that separately.
okay. And that I want to go back to for a minute.
Okay.
I do have a concern with a veterinary clinic around an R2. Just for the same reason that it's not allowed in an R1.
Right.
You got people and you've got just more condensed area. So I do have concern about a veterinarian. Now, with that said, if it's a small animal veterinarian,
Right.
that's different than if they're bringing in horses and that kind of thing. But then on the other hand, we really need a vet in Aztec too.
Well, and a lot's changed. My daughter's pursuing her veterinary practice and works for Animas Hospital in Durango. And you look around, Durango's got 5 or 6, and they're all small animal. And we got the one in Farmington that's a large animal. And in talking with this potential business here, his wife is the vet who wants the clinic, and the money and the real business is in small animal. And why I think our zone was set up for ag to allow for vet clinics, because in the past it was large animal.
Yeah,
And anymore, vets go to the farm or ranch
Right.
yeah,
to service,
yeah.
Either that or they're mobile, so like you said, they go.
they go to them.
Now, I like that location you were talking about where they're looking at. That's a
Yeah.
perfect spot for one.
And R2 was a tough one because, and this is again why what I told the commissioners was, this is why you have a conditional use. Because you'll have this whole hearing.
It's not just allowed automatically.
Yeah,
And that lot that they're
Okay.
talking about is
Okay.
the one just coming down the hill, coming into town on the right?
yeah.
Where they
Right
have the,
before
always have,
church,
yeah,
Up?
right before Church Street.
I don't,
they always have the
He's
tractors for sale
proposing
there?
a theater, he wants an outdoor theater. That was like the first thing.
Wow.
He presented to our Economic Development Advisory Board, and he really had a heck of a presentation. And looked like he's done a lot of work with that. When he
It's
first
just-
came into our office, it was a vet clinic, and now it's changed to all these other things. But, again, his life's a vet, it's an acre, it's almost 2 acres that goes back in there. So,
The problem with that lot, because someone else had looked at that to put in a medical building, and was the sewer is very expensive.
well, that was the first thing we tackled was, and he was looking at his contractor to bore under 550 to connect. But, there's an alley there on, just as you go in church, it goes all the way back, comes out by the school, that we would run the sewer down through and connect into church. So we figured that out for him, but yeah, it would be expensive, because he's
Yeah.
running 300 feet of sewer, you know, to do that. But, and being a vet clinic and other things he's gonna tie on, 4-inch, and connect directly into the, I think it's 6 or 8 in the street there. But not as expensive as boring under 550, which that's a state road, they may not even allow him to do that, so.
they'd have to jump through a lot of hoops to do that one.
Yeah, but that was the big issue.
Yeah, it is the big issue with that property.
With that, you know, everything else is there.
Yeah.
So,
My thing is the traffic coming down the hill. That could be a little difficult.
he looked at several different places, and he latched onto this because of South Rio Grande. You go down Rio Grande, there's a lot of farming, ranching stuff down that way. And they like that he's coming into town, you know, it's kind of right there. So we're all for it.
Yeah.
I feel, and we started to change, we changed the ordinance in case he does submit plans, then we would just take him, they'll come through you guys if it ends up happening, because it's a conditional use.
Okay.
So they'll have to pitch to you guys and then, you know, go for final approval with the commission, but you'll get to see what he's proposing.
Okay.
But at his presentation for our economic board, he had said they're gonna push that off a year and concentrate on this outdoor theater thing. And this outdoor theater, you'd have concessions, you park, they'd have decks and stuff for you to watch, like a drive-in or an outdoor theater. During the day, you know, just some things that jumped out were, you know, there's a neighborhood right there that may not want an outdoor theater. He said they wouldn't go past 8 o'clock at night, some of these things. That
My
would come
concern
through to
would
you
be
guys.
parking.
The parking, he's got 3/4 of an acre for parking, which is a lot. And that would take care of that, plus some overflow. At the school, he had a really good presentation. In fact, next meeting, I think I'll just show it to you guys, just to, so you guys could see. He's been engaged with this, and he's got a background that can do it. But, that, if it's the theater that's first, that will come before you probably as a special use, because that's not just something in our code that we allow either, so.
The noise issue is a problem at Pioneer Heights. Below, it's above the football field and the baseball field.
Yeah,
And Aztec used to set off a cannon when there was a touchdown. And there were so many complaints that they had to quit that, and I hated that, because that was tradition. But they had to quit.
Yeah,
So,
that's too bad.
It is
because
too bad,
the
yeah.
Football field was there first. right?
exactly,
It's like
exactly.
moving next to an airport and complaining about the airplane.
That happens a lot in Farmington.
Yeah,
So,
And the last little part here was just some cleanup, because we have the planning and zoning. We needed to put in, hearings are gonna come before the planning and zoning, clean that all up, and then recommendation to the commission.
this is all really good stuff.
We took the animal unit out, and some way or another, structural alteration had gotten blanked out, so we're just putting it back in for the definition.
that's a definition.
So if you guys see anything that needs cleaned up, changed, please let me know before we take
Yeah.
it. And we would like, do we want a vote on this one?
Well,
Is
it's
there
not
a
on the,
recom-
it's not on the agenda.
Yeah, it is,
New business.
new business, it's right there.
Oh.
They're a vet clinic, we need to vote on that.
Animals.
Oh,
Yeah,
removing
removing
Yes,
animals.
we want to vote on that. I thought you meant the AR zone.
I've got the air zone in it, I told you.
Oh, that's involved with the
It's the
animals?
whole thing, yeah.
Yeah,
I thought the new zone would be a totally separate thing.
Now I'm trying to do it with animals, do it all
You
together.
just set me up for a fight.
Oh, why?
Yeah, I see that, it is in there,
I was at the last one and you did get yelled at.
AR1, huh?
That's your job.
Yeah. It's up to you, Mr. Chair.
All right.
What do you guys want to vote?
You guys want to vote?
I think
We should vote on removing the vet clinic for sure. So we need a motion to,
You don't have to vote on that one, do they?
it's new
That's
business.
already in the
It's
process.
already on
Oh.
intent to adopt.
So we don't have to vote on it, okay. Removing animals, we need to vote on it,
Yes.
right? So we need a motion to remove animals from chapter 26.
And would it also include the,
Well,
And include the
and
AR.
include AR1?
AR1,
I make a motion, we accept.
I second, oh,
I second. Sorry.
all in favor?
Aye.
Do you want a roll call vote?
No,
Okay.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous.
great, we can go on to. Case. Okay.
Updates?
So I just labeled this economic activity because we're seeing a lot of it, which is really a good thing. So we have, the first thing is I don't know if I discussed this with you on the last meeting, but we hired a consultant to do a master plan of, did I mention that to you guys?
The
Yeah.
hotel?
So that work is underway. It's the master plan, the MRA, the metro area that we have around the city, downtown, and North Main. And so they'll be here, the consultants, April 10th and 11th. That's right, David is one of the stakeholders because you're a building owner plus our P and Z chair as, one of the contacts. It's coming on pretty well. They've already visited with some other stakeholders, which are the North Main property owners and some of the downtown. Gordon Crane, who owns, the rest of downtown, that 80 acres there that we have. And it's moving along pretty well, and they're planning to be done probably around August with this, and it'll basically be kind of a visual conceptual plan of building placement and how we infill the North Main area and all the other vacant land within the MRA. And that'll allow us to start to form the tax increment financing that I've discussed a lot, where with this understanding of where these ancillary roads would go and building placement will be, that we can start planning for that. And if we get enough developers and development interest, then in terms of a cluster of our, residential, multifamily, office buildings, commercial, on down the line, then that group can come together and we can put the futures of that tax base up front to build out the infrastructure, basically. If you guys recall us kind of discussing that. This is gonna help set that up, basically. So, if you're not familiar, I think I pointed out who the consultant is, Decker Parrish Sabatini out of Albuquerque. I worked with him quite a bit. Some of the examples again of their work is the Russ Medical Center. They did Alhambra development out of Taos that was the same tax increment financing. They're one of many consultants, but one of the primary consultants for the Mesa del Sol development, which is south of Albuquerque where the Journal Center is, and Netflix. That was 12,000 acre development. And that proved that tax increment development had a size limit. Because 12,000 acres was, ended up going bankrupt. And when that came in and Bill Richardson really pushed for this sector of Albuquerque to be developed, they did it under the tax increment financing where they had an industrial park, they had a commercial sector, and then they had like 50,000 homes was slated to go in. And they took all that futures tax revenue that would, once it's built out, generally up front, which was close to $500 million they took out at the time, to do the road improvements on that south side of Albuquerque. If any of you have been down there, it's where that, I think it's Rio Bravo, where the old bridge was, and you go up, there's like a giant snake that goes up, if you guys ever seen that. All that infrastructure was paid for with those upfront tax increments. And then the developers went broke because they couldn't build that out. And back then, it was the 08-09 recession that really just wiped them out. So 500 acres and less has really been the sweet spot for these types of tax increment. And within the acres we have on North Main and in our area of downtown, is close to 200 acres, 180. So this is why we really feel this could work. And this consultant will help us kind of build the stage for that. The other economic activity is the fact that we're getting, like Mr. Sandoval here, a lot of building interest. So this house, there's a house that just finished in Cocopelli off of Little Rabbit. I'm waiting for plans to be submitted any day for another house in Cocopelli off of French. I think it's where French ends and Little Rabbit begins. They'll be overlooking the cemetery. These folks will be about 2,000 square foot build. There's literally 3 houses in the last year that's gone up in Ancient Trails, and there's 2 houses on Lover's Lane that are under construction. And then south of town, across from Legion Road, where the racetrack is, you might see there's a fenced property and path. There's a 60 by 100 building going to go in there. I'm waiting for plans to come in for that. It's about $500,000 to $750,000 bill. We had Tucker Transportation out of Cortez move into our town. It's been several months, but they're fully in and operating now off of Fetchton Way. This is a great addition. They had $1 million bill plus on addition to their property. We have a subdivision that's just about to finish up their improvements. That we're really excited to see that hopefully we can start getting some interest there and build, but it's happening. So that leads into the next East Arterial. I had some really bad news last time with you guys because we had continued delays. Well, the attorney consultant that we had hired, she went to work and she got us some answers. And so last Tuesday at the city commission meeting, the city passed a resolution basically confirming that the city's contribution is solid and it's ready for the arterial, which is 1.2 million of the close to 18 million that the project costs and is funded, and a commitment letter by the commission. And so that was passed, sent off to DOT, and then Jeff received word, I believe it was yesterday, or even, I think it was yesterday, because we just passed it, the next day after we passed it, that the Secretary of DOT has signed off on it, and it's a done deal. I'm cautiously optimistic because we've been here several times where it's like done, but this seems like it's done. So we're waiting for that official letter that has his signature, I guess, and then we're gonna go to bid. You know, 20 years in the making.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So now the next hurdle is, and we're all thinking, we've got $17.8 million to build this out. And hopefully it comes in at that rate. What we're seeing that it's gonna be 20 plus, you know, is where it'll be. But there's also some commitments by DOT that they'll cover the gap. So if you remember last October, we were supposed to go to bid, last March, they were supposed to go to bid, then we waited till last October. And between last March and last October, that time frame, the cost jumped from 12 million to 17 million. And DOT said then that they would cover that gap. And so from October till now, if that's increased, we're gonna hopefully hold them to covering whatever that is also.
On infrastructure costs, we had someone that gave us a bid last year for paving and asked them to refresh that bid, 43% increase.
Unbelievable.
So we had to go shopping.
Plan B.
Plan B.
Yeah, Plan B.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we, you know, so the last item was McWilliams Road. We had one bidder respond, I think, I've reported already, that's done, out to bid, awarded. They had one, Four Corners Materials is who basically was a sole bidder and was awarded that job. They came under bid about just a couple $100,000, I think, but still far above what initially was that job was to be expected. So initially it was like 1 million, 1.1, and it's at 1.6 now, and the bid came in at 1.5 or something. So, the only report on that is that a chunk of that money is coming directly from DOT. It's like $386,000. And the requirement was we have an independent inspector hired, which the city has picked out and hired, but that has to be blessed by DOT. So that person, they have to basically verify that they have the credentials to be the inspector on that project. And we're waiting for them to do that. And once they do that, they'll go to the pre-construction conference with the contractor. And they're expecting to do that the first part of April. So,
And that's on McWilliams?
on McWilliams, yes.
Okay, that's why Four Corners said that they hadn't gotten a contract yet.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think they should have, already signed the contract, and they've been awarded, but I don't think they've signed a contract.
Okay, they told me they hadn't gotten the contract yet.
Yeah, that's probably, and that's what they're waiting, because there's
Yeah.
the cost to this inspector that's associated with
Okay.
the project. We're paying the inspector out of the project funds, from what I understand.
Okay.
And so, once we get the blessing from the state that this guy is, or this person is worthy, then they'll proceed with construction. So we're looking at, and then we're pretty still in line with the dates that originally, I think we set out. So we're looking at pre-con, first part of April, they'll start their work, and pave end of April and May timeframe, and when the plant's open. I don't think they won't open until mid to late April anyway, so.
Now, we have property next to that gravel pit, and they send out letters, they're gonna be running 24 hours a day, so they've got a lot of work this year.
Oh, there's a lot, that's another thing we've got, you got Pinion Hills in Farmington
Yeah,
that's underway.
that's a big one there.
That, there's already some government roadway projects, plus, these some of these individual paving and these subdivisions and just,
Continuing on up north.
yeah.
Well, and there's a big one going on 64 as well.
Oh, that's right, I heard about that.
Yeah, I forget how much
Yeah.
it is, but
Yeah.
it's a pretty good sized project as
This will
well.
be down to one lane.
Yeah, there's gonna be more. The legislature awarded DOT just for our area, $120 million.
Hope they're gonna do some work to Navajo Dam Road.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Of course, all the roads are falling apart.
so,
Yeah, that would be good.
Well, we're hoping we can get the subdivision paved and get it out. And that's why we're gonna do the townhouse lots first, so that we'll be out of Four Corners' way
yeah.
when they start when they really get into construction. So, we'll see how.
Yeah, and they've got construction to do before they can pave.
Right.
There's a water line that's 10 feet deep.
Right,
They still don't know how to turn it off,
yeah.
where it came from, where it's.
Yeah, that's kind of a fiasco when you don't have a shop
Kinda,
off.
yeah. I don't know, I mean, you guys have heard of pig lines, right? You run an oil pipeline, they could run that, fine,
Yeah.
but I'm just a kid who don't. But, there are some things, they're gonna take out the curb and gutter
Yeah,
along with Williams and reline that, so.
remind me, is the walking trail gonna be on the south or the north side?
The sidewalk is gonna be on the south side.
Okay, good, yeah.
It makes sense to be almost on the north side because you have, it's not the USDA offices.
Water conservation or something like that, yeah. Yeah,
And, so, that's it on updates, it's really kind of short and sweet. Again, there's a lot of, some of the other economic activity I comment on is the old Kelly Webb Farmers Insurance Building has been bought out, and I talked to the new owners, they're gonna put medical offices there.
oh, cool,
They said within 6 months, they wanna plan to do construction, they're kind of finalizing some things. There'll be a complete gut and remodel of that.
Are they
That's
gonna be
where?
On the corner of 516 and 550 where
Oh, right.
that Farmers was at, the Farmers Insurance.
Oh, Bank of America, the old Bank of America building.
Yeah,
is that gonna be Durango or Farmington Hospital affiliation?
well, so the person that bought it, and at first he wanted to be, kind of hush, but since I found out, I've been telling everybody, so it's not hush. Is Byron Vincent, the CEO of Mercy Medical.
Okay,
Good.
So, he sits on like the ATOS board, and I brought up in our Economic Development Advisory Board. And I think he's okay with it. They're already in the design stage. And he just said it's medical offices, so the rumor was it's gonna be the new urgent care,
okay.
but I don't think it is, I don't know. It's kind of a small footprint, but I don't know, so. It's just nice that it's gonna be something.
Yeah.
That's, medical related, I guess.
That's something else we need to hear.
Yeah, it is.
When Dr. Barkman closed down, that was a big,
Yeah, and I think Dr. Poe's retired.
Poe's retiring, but I think from what I've heard is, the new group coming in they're affiliated with the Farmington Hospital with San Juan Regional.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'd heard. I don't know how, just hearsay.
Well, and we had, across from Safeway there was a stretch of property that was owned by Catholic Charities, which was Mercy. And, of course, Century 21 has it listed now for like 1.1 million. And at one time, that was purchased and moved for a
yes,
hospital surgical center.
It's gonna
Yes.
be like an 8
But now that
specialty.
it's up for sale, and you go up to Mercy now, and that whole development, they're building a surgical center behind Mercy now. And man, that whole area's blowing up. And, around Mercy, the residential's crazy, and now the new highway's done, that whole mesa up there, they have planned for development. It may just take a little bit of our thunder. We're seeing a little more, like I said, an uptick in, and a lot of it's some, 970 area code that are calling me, wanting to invest down here. The folks that bought the Mesa Verde apartments on they're actually out working now. Those guys closed last Thursday and they got crews out there now working. They're out of Utah. And so we're really excited about that because those apartments were just trashed.
Yeah.
And so,
Where are we at with the guys that bought the apartments, catty corner there on Blanco and,
so
The retention pond?
yeah, they haven't done diddly.
they're not ready. They came in with Brian, and he's actually, AMF is a contractor on this Mesa Verde Apartments job. And they own those others on Mesa Verde. So Jarita did pull the findings of fact from when that went through. And it's when they do an improvement or they bring in their fourplex or their laundromat that they said that they may be doing, that at that time they do their storm drain improvements and plan. So we do have it. But it's at the time that they basically increase their footprint or change.
So they could literally stay that way from here on out and not actually make those improvements and none of the other stuff that they agreed to
Well,
would
They are
come to
behind on
fruition.
They are behind on doing the electrical.
I know there was issues on the electrical, but they haven't done anything on the sewer that they said they were gonna also do
All
in
that
order to,
is when all that, in the way the commission passed it, and it's actually how we recommended it, was when they started adding or remodeling.
I thought it was the retention pond and all that was
No, that's when.
right away,
It
but,
was when
oh,
they.
that
yeah,
answers.
It's the last, on the last page is where all of that's at.
So the Public Works Department is requesting upgrades for water, sewer, and stormwater management, except for any future development or redevelopment. So at least it's there. I was.
I was just, I don't know, I had it in my head that when we'd passed it, or that it would take place immediately as far as the stormwater and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
that was
come
my
in and
understanding too.
Yeah, they come in and said that they would like to do a fourplex, they'd like to do a laundromat.
When they do that, we'll make them do
That's when
all that stuff.
we had pulled the findings of fact, and that's what was basically passed, so.
Wow. Okay.
Why we keep that paperwork.
Yeah. I'm with Randy. I thought it was I understood it to be, they would get on that right away.
And you
Because
guys-
they wanted to get the electrical done right away.
Yeah.
But
And
they haven't done that.
I didn't go any deeper than the findings of facts. You guys may have recommended that way, but this is what was passed by the commission, so,
Yeah, that's a good.
And the commission
That's
was
the one
trying
that's
to-
etched in stone.
yeah.
Right.
That's one that matters.
Yeah. They were trying to work with them on some of it because they said they couldn't afford to do everything at that time of buying it.
Yeah,
So,
but they fixed them up pretty nice from what they were. This is just a remodel on Mesa Verde, that they're not gonna, there was a row of apartments that were knocked down, and they're not gonna do a new build, they're just gonna remodel the structures that are there.
The existing house and the 2 units in the back of the lot.
Yeah. And then, probably in a year or so, once they kinda get some cash flow, they're gonna probably build out where they knock those down.
Well, doesn't that fit in the floodplain?
No, it's not.
It isn't, even with that wash going right beside them.
And right there, they did, in fact, today, that's when we met them out there, they're pouring sidewalk and a new curb and gutter.
Yeah, I saw them taking out the old.
Yeah, we met them out there for that, and so. they're
Let's-
going.
It's all very exciting. It's
I'm
good.
glad to hear things are happening.
Yes.
That's good.
Yeah,
Just time for
Any
the
items from the
city
floor?
to die when the arterial goes
Anybody
in.
have any?
Nope. motion,
Because it's taken so long.
make a motion, the
Because
meeting be
it's gonna
adjourned.
take everything
I
on
second the
Main
motion.
Street.
All in favor?
Okay.
Aye.
Right?
Meeting is adjourned.
Andrew, I have something I need to talk to you about.
Don't say that.
I'm not gonna, I don't even.
Hell, I've been saying it all along when they first started talking about it. You think about all the little cities that have had that happen to them.
Yeah, I
They're
know.
ghost
It's
towns
always
now.
But we have problems too.
Blue or
so,
black?
yeah, I know.
What's
I
that?
hope